We gonna learn how to cook with love.
Chef Dana's here for you. He's gonna put love in the pan, in the pan. Taste and see. Love in the pan, in the pan. He's gonna put love in the pan, in the pan. Taste and see, it's all good. Love in the pan.
Thank you. This technology. But I was saying, welcome to our cooking program. This is our I Cook, You Cook format, where everyone at the end of the presentation has a meal that they can enjoy right in their own kitchen. My name is Chef Dana Herbert. I'm a graduate of the University of Delaware, class of '98 from the hotel restaurant program there. So I'm super excited to be back with you guys. I know we're going through some trying times, but I know that together we can get through it. So thank you to Alumni Relations. Thank you to them for inviting me to cook for you guys. So tonight we're gonna cook a few things. We're gonna do a warm mushroom salad over romaine hearts with toasted French bread. We're gonna do a chicken piccata, and we're going to do green beans with candied almonds and a little bit of tomato. So I figured that we would probably start with the candied almonds. We get them going in the oven, and then we would move along to some of the other items on the menu. If for some reason at some time that you get stuck or so forth, you can definitely use Zoom, raise your hand, put a message in the chat, or you could unmute if you're lost, say, hey, chef, what was that again? I'll try to move nice and slow, methodically, so that everybody can keep up, because at the end of the day, I want everybody to enjoy what I'm going to enjoy at the end of the program. So let's see. With no further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start with my candied almonds. So here, I have my bowl of sliced almonds. I have a little bit of salt. I have an egg white. And I have my sugar. Now, if you haven't separated your egg white from your yolk yet, go ahead and do that right now. Crack those eggs, separate the egg out, and we're going to just save the white. So these little sugared almonds are a great addition for any salad. So the question that just came up was, do the almonds need to be sliced? Not necessarily. If you don't have sliced almonds and you have whole almonds, that's cool. It'll totally work. Don't worry about it. But the technique that we're about to do is perfect for really any kind of nut. I mean, I use it for pine nuts, walnuts, pecans, almonds, hazelnuts. It just works, and it gives it every nut just a little lift. Plus, everybody likes a toasted nut. So I'm going to do a couple of things real quick. Number one, let's go ahead and turn our ovens on. So if you haven't turned your oven on yet, let's fire up. So I'm starting my oven. It's at 350. Next thing is we want to make sure we have a couple pots and pans on the stove. So I have a pot here, and this might be a little big, but I have a pot here to do my mushrooms in. I have a saute pan, ooh la la, to do the chicken piccata. And I'm gonna grab one more pan out of here to do my green beans. Let's see, I just need a little pan. There we go. You can use any saute pan you want. I'm just gonna grab a non-stick because I got one. All right, so those are the three pans that we're gonna need. One for mushrooms, one for chicken, one for green beans. All right, so everybody make sure you got three pans. I'm gonna go ahead and warm my pans up. So I'm gonna turn the stove on here. I'm gonna turn each one onto like a kind of like a medium low kind of heat setting. I'm gonna get them warmed up, so that way when we start cooking in them, we won't be starting from a cold pan. So I'm gonna go just below medium on these guys. So once the oil gets in there, it'll warm up pretty quickly. Okay, so let's talk about the nuts. I'm gonna grab a little pan, and you should have seen it on your equipment list there that we would need a little pan. I have a little piece of parchment paper, and this is what I'm gonna cook my nuts on. So just like that, okay? If you don't have parchment paper, you could get away with aluminum foil, but you're gonna have to spray it with like a cooking spray, just so it doesn't stick, okay? All right, so let's do the nuts real quick. So I have my almonds here. Everybody should have their egg white. We're gonna dump that right in. We got our sugar, our azúcar in Spanish. Get in there. They call me the sugar daddy in the cake world, so you know I'm not wasting any of the sugar. And we're gonna mix that around. So I'm just gonna take my rubber spat, mix that sugar and the nuts around.
Could I
Just like
ask
this.
you a question?
Go ahead.
Question?
Sure.
My printer wasn't working when I tried to print this up. So could you say the amounts when you're talking?
I sure can, no problem. I'll do that for the rest of the demonstration. Thank you for letting me know that your printer wasn't working. We'll take good care of you. Okay.
And so in your pan, oh, okay.
Yeah. So the pan, just a little pan, with some parchment on it, just like that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna put the nuts on to cook them in the oven. So for you, for ingredient wise, what I had here was I had I'll tell you the exact measurements here. I'll help you out. So here I had I had the 1 cup of almonds, I had a ½ cup of sugar, and I had 1 egg white. Okay. And you mix those together, and this is what it looks like. Okay. So really, it's the egg whites are just moistening the almonds enough so that the sugar sticks to it.
And how much?
And then we're going to spoon those right onto the pan.
How much?
Spread them out a little bit. The sugar was a ½ cup.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just spreading the nuts out so that they cook evenly, and that some spots don't cook before others. So I'm kind of just spreading it out just like this. And now the bit of salt that was left, I'm going to sprinkle that right on top. Okay. So I'm putting the salt on there, just like that. And then we're going to go right into the oven. How many eggs? It was 1 egg white that we used. 1 egg white. We separated it, and we just used the egg white, and that's our almonds. All right. So we're going to the oven now. Everybody got their pan. We got our almonds. We're going in, people. Right into the oven. It's going to take probably about 15 minutes. You can set your timers. I'm going to set my timer. Even though us bakers, we kind of have an internal timer of when to check, but let's be safe. We're going to set it for 15 minutes. All right, so we can clear our bowls. We won't need those. Put those right in the sink. And we're going to move on to the next step, which is to do the mushrooms. So the oven temperature is 350. 99% of the time at the I cook, you cook functions with myself, we're going to do 350 as our normal. However, check this out. If you have a cool oven that has convection in it, i.e. the little fan, then you're going to want to set your oven to 325. Your oven's going to cook a little hotter because the air is going to be circulating more in there. So if you have convection, i.e. the fan in there, set yours at 325. If you have a conventional, go 350. Okay? All right. So our next move is we're going to go over here and we're going to play with these mushrooms. Lots of mushrooms. So what you see here on the screen is we have some rosemary, we have a bit of garlic, we have some onions, we have some button mushrooms here. These here are your shiitakes. We have our portobellos, a little bit of Madeira wine for deglazing. We have some heavy cream, and then later on we'll add the chives and the parsley. All right, so our pan should be warm. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up to the pan to a medium heat. I've had it on a medium low. And so we're just getting it warm. So the question was, if you couldn't find Madeira, would white wine work? Yes. It'll taste slightly different. However, white wine will complement your mushrooms very well. The other question I saw come across the chat was, I couldn't find fresh rosemary. Can I use the dry rosemary? Short answer is yes. What I might suggest, though, would be that you might want to cut it up a bit. The thing with dry rosemary, even when it gets back in that moisture, sometimes it doesn't get quite as soft as the fresh one does. So it can be like, kind of like a pine needle sometimes in some of the food if it doesn't moisten enough. So my suggestion would be to kind of cut that rosemary up a little bit so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so we're gonna put a little oil in the pan just like this. All right, so we'll be able to saute in. Now, the important thing about making sure that the pan is hot is that we want to make sure wherever we put in here that the food's gonna saute in it, and we don't want the pores to open up and suck up the oil. That's kind of how you get greasy food. Did you cut the mushrooms? So did I cut up the mushrooms? The answer is yes. So if you didn't prep at all, go ahead and give your mushrooms a little cut right now. While you guys who are catching up maybe a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in my Foreman grill. Now, if you don't have a Foreman grill, you could just toast your bread in the oven. We'll get to that later. But I'm gonna go ahead and warm this baby up since I'm standing right by it. Plug her in, get her nice and warm, because that's what I'm gonna do my bread on, because I like the little grill marks and everything. I think it looks cute. Adds a little bit of grill flavor and everything.
I'm sorry, what are you going to put your bread on?
Here we got our pan. I'm putting my bread on a Foreman grill. And I'll just drop the, put it on the Foreman grill and drop the press on it and let it toast that way. If you're not going to use a Foreman grill, you could always just toast it in the oven if you want to. Or you could toast it on the stovetop with a little bit of butter, like a grilled cheese. Ooh, that would be tasty. Okay. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. You guys making me think. All right, so we got our pan. Everybody should have their onions. We're going to dump the onion into the pan. You should hear that sizzle just like I did. I'm gonna separate these a little bit, making sure that they're all getting a little love in the pan.
Just the onions?
All right.
Just the onions?
Yep, just the onion. Next, we're gonna do the rosemary. Rosemary sprig to the pot. And we're gonna throw them in there. Yep, I'm gonna leave my rosemary whole because I just want the flavor of the rosemary to come out while I'm cooking the onions and while I'm sauteing. I don't necessarily have to have it chopped up. That's one cool thing about food is that sometimes there's some spices and things in food that you really don't ever see. For example, like cinnamon stick. No one eats a cinnamon stick, but you can taste the flavor in the oils that came from the cinnamon. That's exactly what we're doing with the rosemary right now, which is why I have it in here sauteing with the onions. We're going to give it a little flavor, but we're going to keep all your friends and all your family guessing, what was that in those onions? All right, and then I'm just going to throw this little clove of garlic in here. Okay? And we're going to let that saute just a second. You should be on medium heat at least, or just a step above medium, depending upon your stove. One thing about cooking, every stove and every oven is different. When I was cooking, I had chefs that were like, you got to learn your oven. You got to learn your stove. And they were right. There's certain hot spots, certain burners work better than others. Even if you have two of the same ovens and same stoves right next to each other, they're going to cook different every time. So learn your equipment. I took mine just above medium. I think in my next house, I'm going to do a gas stove. This one here came with the electric. I'm kind of kicking myself now. I should have just bought the electric. My wife is over here saying, yes, you should have bought the electric. I mean, you should have bought the gas. I'm sorry.
I like fire.
Yeah, the cool part with the gas stoves is like, let's say we wanted to do roasted red peppers. I can do them right inside. Drop them right on the burner and roast them right on the stove top. So if you can see the onions, they're starting to get a little bit more translucent, which is what we want. Right now, I'm going to add a pinch of salt and pepper. I like to use kosher salt over the iodized salt. I think that the kosher salt doesn't taste as, let's see, what would be the nice way to say it? Medicinal. You know, you can kind of taste a little chemical flavor from the iodized versus the kosher salt. All right, we're going to give it a little bit of black pepper there. Oh, that's smelling good already. Is it smelling good over there? Okay. I'm getting some thumbs up. All right, class is over. That's all we're doing today. I'm just kidding. We're making the perfect onions. I'm just kidding.
Sharon says, yes, it smells good.
All right, thank you, Sharon.
I know, yes, it smells good.
Oh, that does smell good.
It does.
Okay, so we'll give these onions just a hot second long, and then we're going to go right behind here with those mushrooms. Now, you know the mushrooms, they're going to cook down a little bit. You know how it is. The mushrooms start to break down. They release a little moisture and so forth. The beauty of this mushroom dish is that we have multiple kinds of mushrooms in there. Okay. So I'm starting to see them become translucent, which is what we're looking for. Okay. So our next step will be, after we've got the onions and they're starting to look translucent, we're going to add the mushrooms to the dish. We're going to stir them up a little bit, and we're going to let them cook until they get a little crispy, okay? So right now, I'm watching my heat. On this pan here, I'm going to get back just a tiny bit for me. You guys judge it at your house with your pan and how she's cooking, but we're definitely getting translucent, okay? Next step, let's add those mushrooms. Okay, so the heartier mushroom of all of them is the portobello. Okay, I'm gonna throw that baby in first. So, great question. For the portobello mushrooms, even my wife, she's always asking me questions. On the portobello mushrooms, we're doing a half pound of portobello. We're doing a quarter pound of cremini, and then we're doing a quarter pound of the shiitake. So I have a little bit more than that prepped in my dish, so I'm going to take what I need. Yeah, oh, look, she's going to just throw it all in there.
Just throw it all
Come
in
on
there.
now. You got to keep some restraint. Okay, so the next one is we're going to do some shiitakes.
Oh, that's all right. You can make me an omelet in the morning.
There you go. Any leftover mushrooms, guys, you can definitely do a killer omelet in the morning. I love a mushroom omelet, especially if you have a little like cheese, like fontina, fresh mozzarella, a smoked provolone. Yeah.
Spinach.
A little, oh, yeah, spinach would be great.
I'm putting my breakfast order in, guys.
my wife is throwing off here. She's putting her breakfast order in because, truth be told, my wife cooks more at home than I do. I think because I cook so much that when I get home, I kind of cut to the left when I get up the stairs because the TV's there and my chair is there. So she does much more of the cooking at home. But we met in culinary school. She bought me in a charity auction. Just a fun fact. That's $50 she ever spent.
Sure was.
All right. So you see here, we got our mushrooms right here. We're gonna let them cook a bit so they start to break down. Okay. And then we're gonna go back over to the counter and we're gonna work on a couple things. I think the next thing that we're gonna work on after while these mushrooms are cooking is that we're gonna work on our chicken. We're gonna end up dredging our chicken and sauteing that. So you should have your other pan. If you see right behind me here, I'm going to switch spots on my stove. I'm going to push my mushrooms to the back, bring my saute pan back to the front. I'm going to let those mushrooms and onions and garlic and rosemary go. It smells wonderful right now. We're going to get our chicken going. All right. So for those who did not get the prep yet, it's all good. Let's talk about this chicken, which would be on page 2 of your recipe packet. All right. So on page 2 of your recipe packet, we're doing chicken piccata. All right. So I have some chicken breast right here. Chicken piccata, you want it kind of thin. You can do this a couple of ways. You can either make nice thin, almost little cutlets of chicken, kind of like I did, like with these. These are real thin. So if anybody's done chicken piccata before, you know that the chicken is better when it's thinner for this one. Okay.
Question: can you make the mushroom part? Can you make the mushroom part?
Can you?
It went away.
Oh, went away in the chat. I think the question was, can you do the mushroom part ahead of time? Absolutely. Like you could make this mushroom yesterday. And then when you're ready to do your salad, you just warm it up and put it right on top of the lettuce and the bread. You could totally do that the day before. All right. So let's get into this chicken. So I have just a little pan here that I'm going to put my dredging in, as I call it. So we have that bowl of flour that was on your ingredient list. So this bowl of flour, I probably have, about a cup and a half, 2 cups. Because really, we're just dredging a little bit, not going crazy. It's not like we're doing fried chicken. We're just dredging, okay? All right, I'm gonna put in here a little bit of salt. So just sprinkle a little bit of salt. You can say pinch, give or take. And then we're gonna add the pepper. So you gotta have the pepper. All right, mix that around just a little bit. This is one of those ones you can't be afraid to get your hands dirty, so we will be washing our hands after we touch the raw chicken, okay? Just for safety purposes. All right, so we have our chicken here. I'm gonna grab a couple pieces. Boom, boom, and we're just dredging it, making sure that chicken's getting covered, just like this. Bring that back to the pan. I'm gonna dredge this guy here. All right. I'll get a few pieces. Now, if your pieces aren't as thin as mine and you have whole breasts, you can butterfly them, i.e. cut them right in the middle and just open them up. If you really want to get serious with the piccata, you could take your chicken. If you don't have thin pieces like this, you can take your chicken breast with a meat mallet and pound it out that way and get it nice and thin.
Hoping you would show us how to do that.
Oh, do I have my meat mallet here? It's at the shop. I do everything at the shop. I mean, I own a bakery, but I like to eat too. So I have a few toys over there that most bakeries would probably be like, what the? Yeah, I like to eat.
If
So,
I'm cooking and if I'm looking for something and it's missing,
yes,
I know it's in the shop.
If you're looking for something and it's missing, I got it. Yep, like that pretty little KitchenAid. I know I took it. I'll bring it back one day.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got a very beautiful
I know you got a beautiful pink KitchenAid mixer
from my bridesmaids.
I know you
for
from your
our
bridesmaid.
wedding.
See how she does it?
And it spends more time at the bakery than it does at our
I
house.
know. But your pink mixer looks very nice next to my black, gray, and white mixer on the table. It does. Just gives a pop of color. All right. So that beeping that you guys just heard are my nuts in the oven. So I'm going to wash my hands so I can check them. Because I've dredged the chicken. Now again, if you're butterflying your chicken breast, just very carefully cut it from the side, almost in half, and just open it up. So it gets a little flat. Hey, listen, that is a great one. You can whack, okay, check it out. We want to talk old school stuff. Okay. If you don't have that meat mallet that I have, that tenderizer, Vicky, that was an awesome tip. Put a piece of plastic over the chicken that you butterfly. You can hit it with the rolling pin. Totally works. Totally works. All right, everybody, double check your mushrooms. If you need to, let's give them a stir. All right. Oh, that smells good. Okay, I'm going to check the nuts because I hear the timer going off. Let's double check these real quick. Ooh, we're getting there. We're getting there. I feel a little crunch. Check this out.
Hey, Dana.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you know when to take the mushrooms off? And I think you were just saying it, but you broke up.
Your mushrooms should start to get just a little bit crispy. When they start to get a little bit crispy, you're going to deglaze that with Madeira wine. So if your mushrooms are a little bit ahead of mine, we're going to deglaze with the Madeira wine and then add the cream. That's the next step to the mushroom. Okay, but if you can see your nuts here, I have some crispy spots right here. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to give it maybe 60 seconds more to try to get this little spot here taken care of, but it's pretty close. You see how it's like breaking up for me a little bit? Ooh, don't burn yourself. I do this stuff every day. So you do it with like a little fork or something. Okay? All right, I'm going to give it 60 seconds, at least for mine. That's why I said it's important to spread them out so that you try to cook them as evenly as possible. All right, so, hey, be quiet back there, oven. There we go. All right, so my mushrooms are just about there. I'm gonna give them another second here because they're starting to really cook down. Remember how high that was in the pot before? Now look at it. They're really starting to cook down. I know those flavors are coming together beautifully.
If there's still a lot
It's just about time to add that Madeira wine. Go ahead. You have a lot of moisture left in yours?
yes.
Okay.
If you don't have Madeira, would masala work?
Okay. So if you have a lot of moisture left in yours, your stove might be, just a little different than mine. Go ahead and turn it up a little bit. Turn it up just a little bit. The question that came across the chat also was, if you don't have mine, could you use marsala? I'm doing the happy dance right now.
That's his favorite.
That is my favorite chicken dish,
marsala.
chicken marsala. So marsala would totally work in this dish. It would taste amazing. Absolutely. Okay. So to my pan here, I'm going to get ready to add my Madeira. Okay. That Madeira is going to basically get all the flavors that were down in there in the pan. They call it deglazing. Okay. How much Madeira was it? Let me tell you. I put in, let's see here, it was 1 cup of Madeira, and the heavy cream will also be 1 cup as well. All right, so we got our mushrooms going here. I'm gonna let a little bit of that Madeira come off of there, and I'm gonna add my heavy cream. So if you guys have a strong stove and you're a tiny bit ahead, you could either A, turn it down, or B, once your Madeira has deglazed the pan and your Madeira is just about gone, put your heavy cream in there, okay? Meanwhile, let's get some oil in that pan that we're gonna be sauteing the chicken in. So I'm gonna put some oil in there. And as you can see, I am already hot. That must be why my wife married me.
With the teddy bear, it was all about the teddy bear.
So I got my pan here. She's just about smoking. So I'm just gonna give it a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just to cool, just a tiny bit. I'm gonna adjust my heat just a tiny bit. Let's see, am I touching the right burner? Here we go. There we go. I'm gonna bring it down just a little bit.
So John don't know about this.
Yeah, whatever. So I'm going to cook my chicken that I've dredged here. So we got our chicken. Everybody can see the chicken, right? Let's go into the pan. You should definitely hear that sizzle. That sizzle is what we're looking for. Because it's thinner, it's gonna cook pretty quickly. Chicken piccata is one of those ones where you can cook it and you don't necessarily have to go to the oven to finish it. Some chickens, you know, when they're a little thicker, I like to sear it and then pop the whole pan right in the oven. Chicken piccata is one of those that you don't necessarily have to do that. All right. So I'm just gonna put another pan here right behind that chicken piccata. And the reason for is when it's done in the pan, I'm going to take it, I'm going to transfer it to this pan here. All right. And I'm going to pull my nuts out of the oven because they should be done. Yes, we are looking good. How about that? Right there. So that's what my nuts should really look like. When these cool down, they'll crumble up even more. Okay. All right.
Everybody doing okay?
Everybody doing good? Double check your mushrooms. I'm almost to the point where I'm ready to go in with the heavy cream on my mushrooms. Okay. Chicken's getting there. Check this out. I'm gonna flip one of these pieces of chicken so you can see here that color, that browning? That's what you're looking for. Okay? Just like that. This reminds me, I'm telling you, I loved being at the university so much. I was one of the earlier classes. I don't know if you guys remember or if Vita Nova was there when you were there. The student-run restaurant that's in Trabant Student Center. Amazing food, led by Joe DiGregorio and Debbie. I think Debbie just retired. I think Joe's first student sous chef. So I would teach the other classes like how to cook the lunch meal. And I love working with Joe. Love working with Joe. I have so many fond memories in Vita Nova. Working with Joe was really one of the reasons why I wanted to get into culinary school. I knew I loved food, but Joe just inspired me so much in the kitchen. He made it look effortless, and he was very hands-on with the students. So we learned a lot in his class about food and cooking and so forth. So that's how I wound up in culinary school. I remember talking to the late Professor Paul Wise, who was head of HRIM at that time, and I said, Paul, or at that time, you know, I'm a young student, so I'm like, Professor Wise. I want to go to culinary school. You know, I'm thinking of owning a restaurant, and, you know, I'm thinking of going to this school. I'm not going to say anything. And he was like, And I was like, And he was like, you're too talented. I need you to look for bigger and better. I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, you got it. I've been watching you. You already got it done. And so he encouraged me to go off to culinary school. I had no idea I was going to own a bakery at that time, but I loved it. I loved it. It was kind of like the rounding out of my hotel restaurant management degree because I had the management side and now I have the culinary side. But our program at the University of Delaware was very hands-on. Professor Wise, Kwanzaa, Nelson, Cole, Karani, Cummings. These guys were, when I say hands-on, if you missed class, they were calling you on the phone. My parents loved it because they were like, oh yeah. One, the money they had invested in me, but two, it was like having a second parent on campus. Like, they just didn't play. Turned out pretty good. Okay, so watch your pan that you take the chicken out of. Let's turn the heat down just a little bit.
My
So we
mushroom,
don't scorch that pan.
my
So
mushroom,
the mushroom, great question. Great
my
question.
mushroom mixture is not very crispy. Did I just keep?
It's not crispy yet.
No. It's got a big juicy Madeira onion, the sweet onion, Vidalia onion, and it's still. I'll just keep.
So my mushrooms got crispy, and check it out. When you add the Madeira wine, she's gonna get a little softer. When you deglaze with it, it won't be crispy like it was.
No,
So you can see, like, if you're looking in my pan, most of my liquid, see there at the bottom, there's not really much liquid left.
Okay.
And so my next step is I'm gonna go in there with some heavy cream. Now, does your pan look like that, where there's not that much moisture left at the bottom?
Did you deglaze that already?
Yes, I did.
Oh, with a cup of wine?
So I deglazed it, and because of the deglazing, it's not so crispy anymore, but the flavor in there, I can tell is going to be off the hook. And so my next step is I'm going to go with the heavy cream, and we're going to let this baby reduce. All right. So we've got our heavy cream here, 1 cup, and we're going to go to the pan, and we're going to let that reduce. Now, it's really not going to take that long to reduce if your pan is hot. Given that we're working on a few things here, turn your burners down below medium, okay? Because we can always turn it up at the last second and reduce even more. But you can see my pot's already blue. So I'm going to turn down the heat a little more where I'm at here, back burner. Okay. I'm going to turn the heat down, and I'm just going to let it bubble just a little bit. All right, so we got our chicken done for the most part. We need to do the sauce. We have our almonds done. We got our mushrooms going in the pot right there. Our next thing that we need to do is 2 things. We're going to saute those green beans, and we're going to make the sauce for the chicken, and then we're going to do the bread. The vinaigrette's really easy. So let's say next step, let's get our green bean saute. So I'm going to have you stay right there, honey, because we're going to go and we're going to grab our green bean, and we have our tomato. Now, if you have not diced your tomato yet, like I haven't, I'm going to go ahead and dice that real quick. While I'm doing that, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in that saute pan that I'm going to do the green beans in. So we're going to put a little oil in our pan. We're going to let that get warm so we can go in there with the green beans, probably about a medium heat. While that's going, we're going to cut up our tomato. Okay, so I got my tomatoes here. I'm just gonna cut those. Now, if you're having trouble cutting your tomatoes, like if the knife is acting a little funny, tomatoes are one of those things that'll tell you if your knife is sharp, not sharp, so forth. Turn that tomato over, because the skin is what will give you the problem and make it want to slip. So you can just turn it over and see your knife will slice right through there, go right through the skin. But if you try to do it in the reverse, you'll probably end up squishing your tomatoes. That's why you see some people cut tomatoes with a little small serrated knife, because they know they can get through the skin if they want to do it the other way. Okay, so let's cut up our tomatoes, just like this. Now, you could use Roma tomatoes, you could use the Roma or plum tomatoes, you could use cherry tomatoes. If you want a really ridiculous one, here you go. I'm giving you guys all the tips. You could take some cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, slow roast them in the oven until they kind of dry out and shrivel up. When they've dried out and shriveled up, they are like, I'm not going to say candy, but they're like candy. All right. So we're going to chop up our tomatoes, dice them up, put them in your bowl. To everybody that's already done it, I envy you right now. But I'm cutting up my tomatoes. And then we're going to saute those green beans. So if you're already prepped, you can go ahead and add your green beans to that saute pan, because that's what I'm getting ready to do after I've chopped up this tomato. Okay, last little bit. Keep them fingers tucked back. I'm going to give you a Joe DiGregorio / chef tip. Check it out. When you are chopping, we tend to hold it like this. So as we're chopping, our fingers are never out like this. This is how you get cut or you come hanging out. Keep it back in a claw grip. And so, as you can see, I'm cutting. My thumb is right here, it's tucked back. But nothing can cut me because my knuckle is keeping me from being cut. Okay. So my tomatoes are done. I'm going to go to that saute pan back here, and I'm going to put these green beans in there. I hear some sizzle, sizzle, which is great. Make sure they're spread out. They're going to take a little longer, especially if they're fresh green beans. So we're going to let those saute a second. The sauteed green bean recipe is on page 2. So we're going to let our green beans saute. If you need a tiny bit more oil in the pan, you can do that. All right. We're going to let them saute until they're nice and tender over medium heat. Check your mushrooms. Make sure all your cream has them bubble. Look at that, man. Looking yum. All right. The next thing that we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, while our green beans are sauteing, I have my tomatoes right next to them. It's time to make some sauce for our chicken. So let's get any of those extra things out the way. Your bowls can go to the sink and so forth. Next thing that we're doing is that we are going to be doing the sauce for the chicken, and we're going to be doing the bread over here, okay? So let's talk about the sauce for the chicken. It's on page 2 of your recipe. All right, so when we're in here and we're talking about the sauce, if you go down to, what number did I start at here? Okay, number 5 on your recipe.
The day just went on and on. I just got it.
Is where I pretty much start
the
sauce for the chicken. So I'm gonna give you guys a second. Let's look down at number 5 on the list under chicken piccata. And that's where we're going to start the sauce. So for your sauce for the chicken piccata, we should have a little bit of chicken stock. We should have lemon juice. I have some fresh lemons here. We should have some capers. should have a little bit of, what is that, parsley as well. Parsley gets added at the very last second. And we have a little bit of butter. Butter's going to be added at the last second, okay? There's a question? Uh-oh.
While I'm
Somebody
looking
asked
to the
a
call,
question and we
I'm
missed
just gonna
it.
walk.
If you wouldn't mind asking it one more time, we would be happy to answer that for you. Can everyone please mute your Zoom app, please? You should see a little microphone button, which will allow you to mute,
That looks so
because
good.
we're getting a little bit of background noise.
I can't.
Yeah, if everyone wants to mute, if you touch your screen, there should be a little icon there that has a microphone. And you just touch that and please mute your microphone. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh, it's so quiet now. I feel all alone. I'm gonna check my green beans. I hear them popping back here. They're starting to saute. If you need to move them around a little bit, move them around. All right. You see a little bit, the green beans are starting to saute in a few spots, which is what we want, which is great. We're gonna let them get just a tiny bit more tender before we add the tomato. All right, so back to this sauce. I have my lemons here. I'm just gonna squeeze some lemon juice in there in my bowl. You are going to need approximately 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice, okay, to go with your chicken stock. This is gonna move fast in your pan because I imagine you've had it on like a medium heat or a low medium, something like that. When this juice and stock hit the pan, it's gonna be a little sizzle. I'm telling you now. Not a bad sizzle, but she's gonna sizzle. If she's been waiting for some love, and we're gonna put a little love in the pan. All right. Next, let's go ahead and knock down this parsley. Okay. So we got our parsley here. You're gonna need approximately 1/3 of a cup. Watch those fingers. So we're chopping up our parsley. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just, you know, you don't want a big leaf in your mouth. So just chop it down a little bit. After we do this sauce, we're going to be doing the bread for the romaine. So if you don't have a Foreman grill, get ready. If you're already prepped up, let's get your bread into the oven. We're just going to cut some slices of that, kind of long lengthwise slices are on the bias. I'll show you in just a second. But we're going to get that into the oven. It's probably going to take about 10 minutes if you don't have a Foreman. If you want to do it on a stove top, you could take a little pinch of butter, throw that bad boy right in the pan like you're doing a grilled cheese. Okay, so there's our parsley, all chopped up. Now you can keep fresh chopped parsley in the fridge. It will last a few days. The thing that you have to do though is you have to put it in a cheesecloth and wring it out because we want to get some of the extra chlorophyll out of there because it turns brown fast. Not that the parsley is bad, but it's off color. You know what I mean? All right. So my pan is begging for some yum. So we're going to pour that in there. Right. See how hot it is? We're going to go in there with our chicken stock. You see her bubbling. That means she's pulling the flavor right out the pan. I'm going to go in there with the lemon juice. Just like that. That acid also helps pull the flavor out the pan. I'm going to bring the heat up just a tiny bit so we get a little bubble going on. When she starts bubbling, I know that she's pulling the flavor out of that pan. Okay. Move green beans around a little bit since I'm over here. Mine are sauteing pretty good right now. I'm starting to get like some color on there. I'm gonna go ahead and add the tomato. Kind of move it around a bit. We want to get that tomato sauteing. Now that was If you're using a regular tomato, plum tomatoes, so I had 2 of them. If you have a regular sized tomato, a single one, you could just use 1 tomato, but that's what we put in there. The equivalent to one regular big diced tomato. All right, so we're gonna let that saute. I'm gonna give that a little bit of salt. I'm gonna give that a little bit of cracked black pepper. We're gonna let that saute. I got my lemon juice and my chicken stock go here, right there. Honey, can you get in closer? Check this out. If you can see what's going on, right here. These are the flavor bits, right? Lemon juice and the chicken stock there. But that's what you want. When they start coming up out the pan, woo, that's the flavor right there. Right there. From the chicken, that's right. From when we dredge, it's the little flour bits and little chicken bits that's adding to the flavor of the sauce. All right? So we're bringing it up to a boil. You can scrape those brown bits that are on the bottom. I'm gonna bring the heat up just a little more. Man, I don't know about you guys, but I got so much flavor and aromas going on here in this kitchen. I smell the lemon. I got the mushroom thing happening. I'm standing next to some sauteed tomatoes and green beans. I'm getting a little jealous. I think I feel my little hunger pains start to kick in right now. Okay, yep. And that's our mushrooms that are going on right there. I got them on nice and slow so that the cream wouldn't reduce so much while we're doing our little cooking class. Now, if you're at home, you want to push it, that'll do it. Okay. All right. So our green beans and tomatoes are looking pretty good. We're gonna let it go just a second longer. Our sauce is starting to go here. You can see it starting to bubble. She's picking up pace. I'm gonna bring the heat up just a tiny bit more. And the next step after that is we're going to add our capers. Let's add those now. So we should have our capers right here. Everybody have the capers? All right, so our next step is we're gonna take these capers and we're gonna go right in the pan. Voila, just like that. Let that flavor from the capers cut loose in there. So we get a little caper flavor with our chicken stock and our lemon. Our next step is we're going to add some parsley. We're going to add a little bit of parsley to the pan. Now my directions say, if you're reading the recipe and you're looking at it very closely, parsley is used for garnish at the end. I'm like this. I'm gonna throw a little bit in there, okay? That's me. That's me. So if you're cooking with me, throw the parsley in the pan. All right. I'm a little rogue, but that's my most meal. Right. The time in your house, kind of, and then you start developing new things. Same is on like food else competition, and all of a sudden just we are totally connected by food. Like the techniques and the things that we see, it's really just the things that were grown in that area kind of changes the palates and so forth. But as you even look at, say, some of the different breads coming out of Jamaica, India, and so forth, very similar, but they might have had just slightly different. Right. So my green beans are looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and kill the heat. If they are nice and sauteed, I'm gonna kill the heat right now. All right. I see my piccata sauce. That's looking good. I'm gonna lower that heat now. We've brought it to a boil. I'm gonna bring the heat down to a low. because at the end we're going to add the butter. Don't do it just yet, though. Not just yet. All right. So let's come back around here for a hot second. Let's talk about what we got left. Okay. So what we have left to do is finish our sauce, which we're going to add a little bit of butter. That's all that goes into that.
On the
We're
cooking
going to
show.
cook our bread. Oh,
Okay.
did I have a question? No? Okay. No problem. All right. So what we have left is finish our piccata sauce. That's why we have this butter here. We're going to cook our bread right now. When our bread's cooking, we're going to do our vinaigrette, and then we're going to basically bring it all together. All right. Our mushrooms are looking tasty back there. What is the substitute for white truffle oil? I don't know if there's a white truffle oil. Truffle is a very, very, very unique ingredient. Change the flavor just a little bit. Let's say you didn't want to go truffle. I could go grapeseed oil. Now, if I go grapeseed oil, I can tell you that from this recipe, you're definitely going to taste the lemon more. You're going to taste the garlic more, and so forth. Because grapeseed is kind of neutral. So, say for example, if I wanted to do a chive vinaigrette, grapeseed oil would be the way that I would go, because then the other oil might start to mask the flavor of the chive. That's the one beautiful thing about grapeseed oil. It lets everything else shine, and it just does its job and kind of gives it some body. Did I put the butter in yet? No, not yet. Not yet. I got my heat on very, very low. If you're worried about cooking up all your liquid, add a touch of chicken stock to it. I keep my chicken stock handy. So if you're worried about that, add a pinch of chicken stock. So let's get this bread going. So I got my bread here, right? Wipe my thing a little bit. Let's do bread. I have a serrated knife here. I recommend a serrated knife, not a chef's knife for cutting bread, because you need these little teeth to get through the crust. All right. So I'm going to cut some pieces. I'm right on in here so they can see. I'm going to cut some pieces, what we call on the bio. So we're going to get some nice long pieces, but we're cutting kind of on the diagonal. That's what they call cutting on the bio. Okay. So I'm going to get some pieces like this. Watch that thumb. Just like that. Let's do one more. Okay.
Sitting at the stall or on the side?
So the chicken right now is sitting on the side. You can return the chicken to the pan if you want it to sit in your sauce, which would be yum. Let's do it. Let's put the chicken in the pan. All right. So, I guess they've worked me into it. Hey, everybody. Let's grab the butter. And then we'll put the chicken in the pan and we'll let it sit. Normally you can move just a tiny, very low heat. I'm going to get ready to kill the heat, because I remember in Vita Nova, Joe was like, you got to whirl it in. And I was like, what? What is a whirl? But Joe would literally whirl his butter into his sauces, nice and gently. Just like that. We're just going to swing that around in a circular motion, just like that. Ooh, that looks good. That looks real good. Yummy. All right, let's get our chicken back in there. All right, let's get her in that sauce. We can throw a little capers on there. And we're just going to let her sit till we're ready. Okay? Look at that. Let me tell you, I'm glad we do this format as an I cook, you cook, because I don't know if I was going to share. All right. I'm just saying. All right, that looks yummy. Okay, we're gonna let that sit in there. Let those sauces kind of marinate a bit. Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. All right. So let's talk about this bread thing. So we got our bread. We're gonna go right over here. Check it out. We got our little forming grill. A couple of things you could do. You either brush it with oil. You could do a bit of pan spray. Less mess would be to take your pan spray, spray it a little bit. If you don't have pan spray, then you could certainly go olive oil to finish. All right. So I'm spraying one. Okay. Putting that bad boy right on my foreman. If you don't have a foreman, let's go to the oven with it. Go to the sport. I'm just gonna give it a quick spray. Just like that. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna give it a pinch of salt too. Bread likes salt. Baking and pastry class. Said you better put salt in it. I was like, why? It's just flour and water, but gives it a little flavor. All right. So we're gonna drop that on there. Let's go back over here and let's make our vinaigrette. I'm gonna get rid of this bread here. All right.
How's everybody doing?
Everybody doing well? We're keeping up? Thumbs up. I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's get into this vinaigrette.
Dana,
Yes, sir.
I want to let you know, every once in a while, your internet connection kind of freezes and we lose audio. I don't know if it's an us issue or if anybody else is experiencing that as well, but right now you're pretty good.
Right now, pretty good. Okay.
Yeah, mine is off a lot.
Okay. Who's that kid circling? We have some kitty. We do have kids classes too. All right, so let's do the vinaigrette because we're just about there. We have a few ingredients here. We have that truffle oil. We have a little olive oil. We have some mustard. We have a pinch of salt. We have some lemon juice that we're going to squeeze from the lemons. All right. So if you go back to the first page of your packet, everybody got that? Right up here is that truffle vinaigrette. Oh, okay. I'm gonna talk you through this one because I know somebody doesn't have the. Thank you for reminding me. Somebody doesn't have the printout, so I'm gonna walk you through the exact ingredients on here. Thank you so much. We're gonna do the juice from 2 lemons. All right. Let's cut those. Let's squeeze the juice out. I'm gonna squeeze it right into this little bowl here. Okay. Let's do the next one. You can certainly take a spoon and pull your seeds out. I don't know how good the seeds will be going down. So if you're doing a fresh one and you're getting a bunch of seeds in there, like I am, I'm gonna grab a spoon and just fish a couple of those out because I don't want to eat the seeds. A little bitter, a little crunchy. All right. So I'm gonna take a spoon real quick, and I'm just gonna get these couple seeds out of here. If you have a strainer or a juicer or something of the type, you can certainly use that and don't have to do what Dana's doing. Just fishing a couple seeds out of here. Okay. Oh, I see another seed. There it is. Get out of there. Oh, got her. Oh, there it is. Come back. There we go. Okay, got him. And I dropped it. And I dropped it. Okay. I'm now seedless. They need to come up with a seedless lemon. All right. So we have our lemon juice. The next thing that we're going to do our garlic. We're going to need to chop that up. So for your garlic, you should have 1 clove of garlic, finely minced. My cloves are a little small here, so I'm going to do 2. Okay. Because mine are tiny, but if you have 1 nice clove of garlic, you do that. We're going to dice it up. Real small, though. Take your time. Watch those fingers. Because it is, raw garlic, we want to make sure it's cut real small. Garlic's a great flavor. You just want to make sure if you're using it in the raw that, you're just getting little bits. Now, if you wanted to do a spin on this, and you wanted to take your garlic and put it in a piece of tin foil with a tiny bit of oil and roast it, that's yum. Okay. But today we're going to use it raw just like this. I remember when I was on, what TV show was that? I think that's when I was on Cake Boss, that next grade baker show that I won. And we had to do a cooking challenge. And they didn't have any idea that I was more than just a baker. They never asked. And so when we got to the cooking challenge, they were like, holy cow, you need to be on like Kitchen Stadium or something, like Iron Chef. Like you got 5 burners going and so forth. And you got 3 dishes and we only asked for 1 dish. So needless to say, that was a good way. I have my lemon juice. I have my garlic. I have some lemon. I have my lemon juice. I have my garlic. I have my Dijon mustard. So for your Dijon mustard, if you don't have the recipe handy, we're doing 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of the Dijon mustard. Let's put that right into our vinaigrette. Now, if you do not have Dijon mustard, you could do dry mustard if you don't have Dijon available. Okay. Now we're going to add, next we're going to add our truffle oil. And then at the end of that, we're going to slowly add the olive oil. So I'm going to add my truffle oil and I'm going to mix it. Grab my whisk here, and we're gonna whisk it. Okay, so our mixture should start to look like this. And then I'm gonna slowly drizzle in the rest of the oil. Real slow. Now you could do this with a hand blender or an immersion blender. You could do this with a regular blender if you wanted to, and you were making a little bit more than just this little bit. Okay. There we go. Oh yeah. Okay. And that is your truffle vinaigrette. So that's going to go on top of our salad. We are almost there, everybody. We have our mushrooms. We have our green beans. We got our almonds. We got that chicken. We're going to go over here and let's check our bread. And then after that, we're going to get ready to plate up. You could add a little pinch of salt to your truffle vinaigrette, like I did. Let's check our bread. Come on over. Let's see where it's at. Oh, look at that. George is being good to us, everybody. That's how our bread should be looking. If it's summertime, if you wanted to go a little longer and get a little bit more market, you could, but I can tell right here by the color, I'm nice and crisp and toasty, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and unplug my foreman right now. I'm gonna let that bread just sit there just a hot second and stay warm. And let's go ahead and finish this salad. I'm gonna grab the bread in a second. So, in preparation for finishing the salad, let's talk about what we got left real quick. We got our vinaigrette, right? We got our pine nut. Wait a minute, hold on, what am I missing? Free. I see what I did. Okay, I'm in good shape. We got our pine nut. Hey, and I apologize, to your mushroom mixture, add your chives. I'm sorry. I was holding off. I added in the chives. Added in the chives. Dana did it. Blame it on the chef. I'm sorry. Let's get that mixed in there. I apologize. So, this is what your mushroom mixture is really looking like. Now, someone asked me, this is what's going on in the neck of the woods. I don't know what it is with chives in our area, but I've been to all the markets, all the farmers markets, all the majority of the grocery stores. Chives are at the ever elusive. All right. So we have the truffle vinaigrette. We got our pine nut. We got our pecorino romano. I have a little bit of parsley here. You can add some parsley to your pot of your mushrooms. You can use it for garnish as well. Any way you want. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my romaine. Okay. I'm going to cut that end off there. I'm going to cut the romaine in half. Like this. Now, depending on what size your French bread is, this is up to you. Let's go over here. Let's grab our toast, okay? This is off your foreman. We're going toast, people. Okay. All right. So I have a little dish here that I'm going to use, and I'm going to put my toast right in here because I like to go family style. The thing about me and food, and I know you guys can totally understand this. Growing up, you know, with my parents working, little brother, he's in school, I'm in school. Sometimes we were in the same school, depending on the grade. Sometimes we weren't. It seemed like family was just going all these different directions. But the one place that you could find everybody was at the dinner table. So I am a fan of family style in terms of food. Next, I take my lettuce. I put it right on top of my toast here. Okay, just like that. If you want to be a little foo-foo shay-shay, you could get rid of one of the outer leaves or something. But we're going to sit it on there just like that, okay? Next step. Remember that pot of mushrooms that we got going on? Remember our pot of mushrooms that we got going on? We're going to go over here and we're going to grab some of those mushrooms. Now, if you need to put a hot pad down or something like that, now would be the time to do it. Because I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my mushroom. I'm going to grab a little something like this to set my pot on. And I'm going to finish that right there. Okay, so here are my mushrooms. Look at that, it's still bubbling. That is good, look at that. That's crazy. All right, I'm going to take my mushrooms. I'm going to go right on top of my cold lettuce. Now this is great if you can eat it right away. It really is, because you got the hot and the cold going on, okay? We're going to take a little bit of this vinaigrette. We're going to drizzle some of that right over top. Let it run, yep, let it run right all down through there. Let it run right all down through the lettuce. Get on that toast, get that flavor in the toast. Kristen, you already plated and ready to eat? I am jealous. You must have heard my stomach rumbling from over there. All right. So we got our vinaigrette on here. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of toasted pine nuts. Just like that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of my pecorino romano. Right on top. And this is one tasty meal. Now you can really do this as a meal if you wanted to, because it's nice, it's hearty, it's filling, it's got a little carb, you got your veggies there. And then I'm going to garnish with a little bit of parsley and a pinch more of the pine nut. So that's the first one right there. This is our warm mushroom salad over romaine hearts with toasted French bread. Oh, you are welcome. Listen, I enjoy sharing what I do. Okay. So thank you for having me. I'm going to put my mushrooms back over to the stove, make a little room, because it's time to do the chicken piccata and the green beans. So if you guys want to clear a little bit out of the way, like I am, I'm just moving some of this stuff here so I can get my other plate in. I'm gonna grab my plate here. My name is Hungry Man, and I play no games, so my plate might be just a tad bit bigger than your plate. All right, so we got a couple of things coming over here. First is our green bean. Thank you, Karen. I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right, so let's get our green beans. Uh-oh, now wait for you to come back. Let's get our green beans on the plate. So that's our green beans. That right there. And then we're gonna do a little bit of our chicken. I'm like, I don't know if you can hear them, but my kids are starting to circle. That's fun.
Like hawks.
Yes, they are like hawks. They can smell it. Karen, you're already eating? I saw that.
Awesome.
All right, let's get that sauce on our chicken piccata. Just like that. Get some capers on there. Oh yeah. And let's not forget, we have our crunchy almonds. Now look, I don't know if you guys can see, but since it's cooled down, see how the almonds get nice and crunchy? How I can break them up? That's what you want. So you just peel some off your parchment paper. See how that came off just like that? You just break it up. Now, once you have your nuts like this, you can put them in a little airtight container, and anytime you have salad, you just throw some right on top. You are welcome. So I'm just going to finish this dish just like that with a little bit of candied almond. And I'm going to hit it with just a tiny pinch of parsley. And there you have chicken piccata with the sauteed green beans with candied almonds on top. And we cannot forget our warm mushroom salad. All right. Well, I totally and thoroughly enjoyed tonight. I hope you guys had a great time too. I want to definitely thank Catherine, Bale from over at the University of Delaware for putting this together. Her and I were coordinating quite a bit this past couple weeks. I was totally excited to put this together for you guys, as was I, and I had a great time. Catherine, are you on here? I know she was.
What's that?
Yes, thank you, Dana.
Thank you very much. We
You
appreciate
are
it.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Anytime.
Cheers, everyone.
Here, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
All right. Why do we?
I don't have a question, Dana, but I am going to say your mushroom ended up looking much, much better than ours. I'm trusting that it will still taste good, but first time out, so far, nobody's gotten hurt.
It still tastes good? All right.
Thank
That's
you.
what we like to hear. Yep. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I would love to see some of your plates. If you guys want to email me some pictures or throw them up on Facebook and tag myself and the university in those, the alumni office at the university, we would love to see some of the pictures of some of the food that you guys created.
Chef, do you have an Instagram?
Do I have an Instagram? Yes, I do. My Instagram and Facebook are Desserts by Dana. I do have a Dana Herbert fan page as well.
Thank you.
There was a question about yolk that just came up. What was the question about yolk? It came up a little fast. Let's see if I can see the chat. And the question about the yolk. Oh, okay. So Dana, what happens if you use yolk and not egg white in the almonds? Let me think. Could you coat them in egg yolk? Yes. I think that the egg yolks and sugar, though, are going to brown a little faster than the egg whites are. They will be slightly richer. That's going to be for sure because the egg yolk has the fat in it, and the white is the very lean part. So it might start to color a little bit faster with the yolk instead of the white. I do at the bakery play around with a egg yolk, I guess you could say, buttercream. I normally do a traditional with the egg whites, but you know, if you're separating the eggs, I have all those egg yolks left. So I make the reverse, which is with the egg yolks, and then I use chocolate in it, and it makes a really wonderfully rich and beautiful chocolate buttercream doing the reverse. Yep. And guys, if you see right there in the chat, feel free to tag UD NCC alumni on Instagram in your picture. Thank you so much for posting that there. And you can see right here that in the chat, you'll see on Facebook, there's Newcastle County Blue Hens. All right. Well, if no one has any further questions, Catherine, do you have any closing remarks for everybody?
Hi, Dana. Can you see me?
Let's see. Yay, I can see
Hi.
you. Hi.
Thank you so much on behalf of all of us at UD. This was a phenomenal evening. And well, I'm sure we will stay in touch with you and maybe we'll see you again soon.
Awesome. I would love that. I would love that. All right. Well, good night, everybody. Enjoy your meal. And please follow me on all the social media platforms. And if you want to cook with me some more, check me out on Mondays, Date Night with Chef Dana. You can follow, go right to chefdana.com and cook along with me every Monday at 7.
Thank you very much, Chef.
Right.
Everything's great.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Hard to